In this video, we want to delve into the changes that were made in dirty area management and discuss how Validate Network Topology works in the ArcGIS Pro 2.5 release. Before we go there, let's review again the purpose of dirty areas and their benefits. Dirty areas provide a visual marker to indicate areas of the network that may be out of date with the Network Topology Index. Dirty areas impact network analytics such as diagrams and tracing. Since network analytics rely on the network topology, inaccurate results may be returned when dirty areas exist for network features. And lastly, they help ensure that results from analytics can be trusted. The network topology can be validated using the validate command found in the network topology group on the Utility Network Data tab, or by executing the validate network topology geoprocessing tool. Both options follow the same logic but present their options in a slightly different manner. In these examples, we'll use the validate command on the Utility Network Data tab, which defaults to validate against the current map extent. With the release of ArcGIS Pro 2.5, changes have been made to how validate works for specified extents. In past releases, all dirty areas intersecting the boundary of the current map extent would be evaluated and cleaned. With 2.5, dirty areas are clipped based upon the current map extent. This can have performance benefits when validating the extent of edits you've made when large dirty areas intersect the validation extent. To demonstrate, in this map we have two low voltage conductors leading to residential services. An edit has already been made to relocate the line to the west, and we are now going to relocate the other to reflect the proper location of the service connection. With this edit, you can see that a dirty area is created for the minimum bounding rectangle of the edge, and is adjacent to the existing dirty area with a small amount of overlap. I'm going to zoom in to the conductor I just edited so that its dirty area extends beyond that of my map's extent, and then select Validate using the current extent option. As I zoom out, you can see that Validate has cleaned the dirty area for the most part. However, portions remain to the north and west. Let's take a moment to review an important note about executing analytics when validating against the current extent. Creation of network diagrams and executing traces with the Validate Consistency option enabled may still report issues if any dirty areas remain which are related to features you're working with. To demonstrate, let's take a look using Validate Consistency to see what happens when I make an edit to this conductor in service, and then try to run a trace after validating around its extent. After I relocate the edge and clean the dirty area, a trace run against the features with Validate Consistency enabled will fail, because dirty areas associated with the feature remain, even if they aren't displayed as such in the visible extent. Zooming out, you can see here that a sliver of a dirty area exists from a prior run of Validate. The feature GUID for the remaining dirty area is associated with the global ID of a feature that I'm trying to trace through. I'll validate once more, but this time I'll use the entire extent option to ensure that I clean all dirty areas. Once the dirty areas have been cleaned, I can successfully rerun my trace. Let's take a look at another example demonstrating extent-based clipping of dirty areas, this time working with associations. In this example, I've rerouted a conductor and dropped a few new services to the east. To finish these edits, I just need to create a structural attachment between the pole and transformer and establish a connectivity association between the fuse here and the high side terminal of that same transformer. I'll first create the structural attachment. Next, I'll establish the connectivity association here, between the fuse and transformer. After making the edits, you can see that a dirty area was created that comprises the entire extent of the associations. I'm going to toggle the View Associations button here to display those two new associations I just created. Zooming into the map at a larger scale, I'll focus on the transformer and validate the current extent. You can see that when I zoom back out, the evaluation extent was expanded to include the extent of the associations. Other dirty areas associated with feature edits, however, remain and were clipped. In summary, we reviewed the purpose and importance of dirty areas to provide a visual marker to indicate areas of the network that might be out of date with the Network Topology Index. We then walked through some changes made with the ArcGIS Pro 2.5 release, to highlight changes made to clip dirty areas based upon the current map extent during validation when using the current extent option. We noted that while this can provide performance improvements in some editing scenarios, there are items to consider when you perform analytics to ensure that accurate results are returned. Lastly, we reviewed an exception to this change with associations. When working with associations, the entire association extent is evaluated during the validate.
you.